Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Catunquit Chronicles, which has been broadcast and developed here in the island of Catunquit in our studio. We acknowledge the custodians of the land where we are broadcasting from today, including the Narragansett Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I'm your host, James Allen, and I'm joined here most weeks, and this week by the extraordinary adventurer, extreme sport enthusiast, and all-around great gal, Ashland Comorack.
Hello, Jimbo.
Ashland, sup?
Sup?
Oh, I'm abbreviating more often now. I'm totally
Hook. You're making no sense again.
hooked.
Hooked. Don't start inventing language, James. Let other people do the inventing. But I admire your sense of invention.
It's somewhat contradictory, isn't it? Ashland, I have to say, tonight, I'm going to enjoy tonight's topic. Chi.
Chi or chai, like the tea?
No, chi. You
Chi.
know, like the most important power we possess. It's like a seed within us that locks out all the energy, so that we can grow more emotionally, spiritually, and possess superpowers when it blossoms.
Superpowers.
Ashland, you have chi. Let's face it. Come on, let's face it. You're a Wonder Woman, for God's sakes. Aren't you at peace when you're in the woods? You get down a path you might not have been aware of, and you don't know where you are suddenly, and then you call on your inner strength?
So that kind of chi.
Have you ever concentrated so hard on a topic or a want, a desire, that you willed it to happen? Was that chi?
I just thought it was one of my superpowers.
Like tonight, when I was at home and I was thinking about driving up here to the studio, and I thought, what would Ashland do?
No, you didn't. You were just shamed by me. Did you ride your bike?
Jay Cee gave me a ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that chi has to come from a good motivational place, not from, fear or from embarrassment.
Oh, you mean like on a pickleball court? That's where my chi comes from.
You always weave it back to pickleball.
Don't knock it until you tried it. It's a good game. It's not just for octogenarians.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet.
Well, you're not an octogenarian.
Not yet.
But you'd be surprised at the level of play sometimes, even among the octogenarians. I don't think competitive sailing could be... I didn't think that competitive sailing could be a challenge, and boy, was I wrong about that. Alexi proved that to me.
Alexi's wife, Cara, is captaining the boat this year to Bermuda.
Ooh.
In the Bermuda race.
Wait a minute. Well, why didn't he captain? He always captains the boat.
Yeah, he took over as the head chairperson for the race this year, and it was just way too much work to try to run it and sail it.
Oh, so cool. He's not very inclined to sit in a chair, so he was the chairperson.
Maybe that's not his exact title.
But she's another rock star woman with some serious chi, baby. You're like everywhere now. I mean, you women, men are destined to be obsolete in the future. Absolutely obsolete. That's what my nephew told me. He's 28, something like that. He said men are obsolete.
Yeah, but I think we still need you. We haven't quite figured out how to, asexually reproduce.
Well, tonight I do have some chi-related stuff. It's a poem. It's a prose poem. So I don't want to scare anybody with poetry. It's a prose poem, so it's very much like a story. Don't panic. And I'm talking to the world. I know that Ashland isn't panicked. But it is a prose poem. It's called Chee Cheese Chee.
Sounds a bit redundant.
Just the title. Oh, whoa, Jay Cee's here. Jay Cee, my buddy Jay Cee, who did give me a ride. He just came walking in just now. Here he is. Great to see Jay Cee. But tonight I wanted to welcome.
Thank you.
He's brief.
Good to see you, Jay Cee.
He's brief and good looking. I assure everybody in Radio Land.
Paint us a picture.
First, I did, we play this game. Jay Cee and I are quite good friends, as is Ashland and Jay Cee. And over the years, we've played this game. We refer to it as irreverently as bullshit. Jay Cee refers to it as bullshit as well.
Kind of. Actually, the real title is it bullshit or not?
It's more descriptive.
Sounds like a game show.
Well, it's a question. Let's talk about the punctuation here. Is it bullshit or not? So there's a question mark at the other end of that.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it's not bullshit, and we can all learn from the not bullshit. Just to say. I'm just talking. I'm just letting you know.
Because if it's real, we've learned something, unless we already know about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the new title, we were going to call it bullshit, is, Jay?
Is it bullshit or not?
That's the question. Is it bullshit or not? Well, we'll find out, won't we?
I should have come up with a scary
So
story.
before we start any new things, we always do this. Okay, so let's do some of this. Is it bullshit or not? I'm going to start you off. I have a quick one. In 1937, the Nazis, they were known as Nazis at that time as well. They came up with a way to make methamphetamine, and by 1939 through 1945, during the war, that's the Second World War, for those of you that haven't studied that stuff, 35 million doses of methamphetamine was doled out to the soldiers during their blitzkriegs and other endeavors. I ask you, is this bullshit or not? Ashland?
I think that's plausible because they did a lot of experimenting. Jay Cee?
Yeah.
Jay Cee.
So, yeah, the rationale for that clearly is they wanted people that were basically could stay up for hours upon hours and complete military operations. So
yes.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's dead on true. I think there was an article that I read on that in the New York Times.
That is dead on true. That is truth and not bullshit. And to go a little further, Adolf Hitler, Chancellor of Germany and supreme ruler dictator ultimately, he was against his soldiers taking any kind of drugs. He felt that they were superhuman. But he was behind his he loved his scientists, that could take the perfect soldier and then actually make them better. So he liked advantage through science. That's what Blitzkrieg was about, the science of bringing tank warfare and quick thrusts. And
These were his perfect blonde soldiers.
yes, so now he was stringing them out with that methamphetamine, which was counterintuitive, but it did work for quite a while. But then they got really tired.
Sheer exhaustion.
They
They're
just
done,
got tired.
right? Just
Well,
surrender.
yeah, I
The
mean,
white flag
the
comes
come
up,
down
it's
off
over.
of anything, you got to pay the price. It's like the equilibrium of nature.
Absolutely.
What goes up must come down.
True. So there was that. And it's not bullshit. So you thought I might start off with a bullshit, didn't you?
I didn't know what you were going to do, quite honestly.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I like a history lesson.
You're a teacher. Jay Cee is a teacher, and he teaches.
Social studies to 7th and 8th graders.
Well, this is a social society. At 7th and 8th, they're very social.
Oh, yes, they are.
So you have to be monitoring that at the same time you're teaching them some social studies, I'm sure.
All the time, Jay.
I'm sure you're monitoring all that.
Is school out yet?
Yes, it ended yesterday.
Here in Catunquit, it ended today.
Jay, you grew up in Catunquit, didn't you?
I did.
What was that like?
Looking back, that was a wonderful childhood.
Can you refer to yourself as an Islander?
100%. As a matter of fact, I had a coffee with my old social studies teacher who taught in not this exact building. It's interesting about the island of Catunquit is that not a lot of people know this, but the original inhabitants, which I am sure you're aware of, were the Narragansett Native Americans.
Yes.
And the word Catunquit means place of heavenly breezes. And natives from the Rhode Island area would come to Catunquit at the end of their lives because this is where they wanted to be buried. And quite frankly, I heard of a news article that was occurring over here. There was an archaeological dig where when they were building the new school for Catunquit, actually where the studio is right now, they uncovered many different Native American graves, and they were all stacked on top of one another. So this was, and the concept behind it was they wanted to be facing in the southwesterly direction to feel those heavenly breezes.
Yeah.
So Catunquit means land of heavenly breezes.
So it could be the land of the sea breeze.
It very much could be.
Isn't that fascinating? That's great. It's great news. I was feeling those sea breezes today. I happened to attend the Senior U.S. Open today. And, at my age, it's good for me to watch players in their 60s and some in their 70s playing such fine golf. Also on lands that were owned by the Wampanoags, in this case, just over the way.
True.
Just that way. So, such a historic place that we live in. Okay, let's do some, is it BS or is it not BS?
Who's up?
Who's up?
Oh, Jay Cee has raised his hand for those of you who can't see into the studio.
He's a teacher, you can tell when he opens, you got the hand up.
Can I go? Can I?
Yes, you can go.
Was the story of the origin of the name Catunquit bullshit or not?
I'm going to say that the land of heavenly breezes part was bullshit.
I am going
Jamie
to
is playing with his phone.
I'm going to say
You can't look it up.
I do know that there was burial sites here in Catunquit, so that part I feel very strongly about. The heavenly breezes and the Southwest for sure. I think it's true.
Jamie, you got it.
Jamie's got it.
Jamie's
It's true.
got it. He's got it.
It's true.
It's true.
Jamie. Even Jay Cee's calling me Jamie.
That's my fault.
Well, that's okay.
But notice I called you Jimbo today.
I did notice. Right away I noticed that.
I just wanted to mix it up.
You've been taking over this podcast, I noticed, incrementally, but nevertheless. Very good. I like that. So you can call me anything you want. I don't care. You can say anything about me, and I wouldn't care. It's good. I would care enough to make some kind of funny comment about it. Your turn, Ashland.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you not really a historical story, but so I live on the north end of Catunquit where, there's still some old-time Jamestowners or Catunquiters.
Well, the Jamestowners are in Jamestown. The Catunquiters are here. So we got to get that straight right now.
All right, so I have no idea if this guy actually that I'm going to tell you about, was born in the kitchen, or where were you born, Jay Cee? Because
you were born on the floor, weren't you?
If you were born in Newport, you can't be a true Islander. Well,
Yeah,
you'd be an Aquidneck Islander.
It was clarified today with my meeting with my former social studies teacher that we are now in the 50-year family circle. Not in Catunquit, unfortunately, but in Jamestown. We now are in the 50-year club, which makes us, around for half a century.
Okay,
Anyway.
well, only because, Jamie here was talking to the local barber who said you really pretty much had to be born in the house
Yeah.
to be considered an Islander, unless, like him, you owned a business on the island.
which was absurd. It just still doesn't make any sense, but God rest his soul. Wonderful man. I enjoyed him very much.
Okay, so back to my story. So this guy is an old, what I mean by an old timer is that somebody type of person you saw more frequently on the island. Like now there's quite a bit of money coming to town, a lot of new people living in town. So he lives on the north end, which is, not quite as desirable as the south end in town. So he, you still see some small houses up there, and he lives in this kind of rustic shack thing. And I happen to walk on a trail that passes by where he is, and I've been chatting with him over the years. And apparently he's some physics wunderkind. Oh, but I'm not a kind anymore. He's an old man. And he worked for the government, and he suddenly retired. Like he just decided he had had it. This is what he's told me. And it was so shocking for whatever top secret group he was working for, that they assumed that he, had defected or, was working now for a foreign entity. And so he's told me multiple times that they've been spying on him ever since and tapping his phone. And sometimes people are parked outside or following him around. So like 3 years ago, he told me that now the government is sending little insect drones to spy on him. Now, this place is everywhere is full of conspiracy theories. So, I just humor the guy. Whenever I bump into him, he tells me some of this crazy stuff and how he's now devised something that, from his description to me about it, is like a mosquito. What are those things called? A mosquito.
Magnet?
Well, the mosquito magnet was that big thing where it released
Pheromones.
Did it use pheromones, or was
Yes,
it just
did.
using CO2?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Never
No,
mind.
I'm thinking the old bug zappers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so anyway,
Electricity.
he's described something to me that's sort of like a bug zapper with some magnets and whatever, and it sucks these things in when they come close to spy on him.
Yeah. Those things are at my house, too. They ate all my peaches.
The government
From my
drones,
peach tree.
the insect drones.
It's a conspiracy.
It sounds like the Hunger Games,
So
Catunquit style. I was so hooked. And then I was like, this is called, is it BS or not?
Yes, well,
So-
here's the question. Are there government insect spy drones?
she's looking at me,
Yeah,
but I'm looking at you. Wait a minute. I'm going to say it's my idea, by the way, because I had that idea a long time ago.
Why
And-
couldn't it be? Why couldn't it be true? Why couldn't they make little bots? Don't they have stuff that go into bodies that
Oh,
are
yeah,
remote
that's true.
controlled that you can?
That now, yeah, you'll be able to
You know,
have, these things can get put in your bloodstream, and they'll be able to go all over your body and fix things.
it's like the movie, right? Yeah, back in the 60s. But if I think about this whole thing, there are a lot of people that have moved here for short periods of time.
To escape something else?
NSA.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you never see them. They don't show up at soccer games or anything, but their kid's on the team. And the wife, their spouse or whoever it might be, they'll be likely just standing there alone all the time, wishing that they were with their other person. And it's but then you find out after they're CIA, that kind of thing, quietly. But so there might be lots of people in this town. Perhaps there's some Russian spies, perhaps.
Well, this guy says he's not a spy. He just couldn't take it anymore.
Okay.
I love the story.
I think I'm going to say bullshit.
Bullshit. There's no robotic
Oh, no, I already
insect
agreed
drones.
to that. Okay, so I'm going to say there are.
Yeah, I'm going to... yes, why not?
All right. Well, interestingly enough, the guy is made up because it's from a story I wrote a while ago. But I wrote this story about these little insect drones spying on this old man who lived in a cabin. But a few days ago, I read an article, and there was a government insect drone that they were talking about.
I think it's a good opportunity to use these to dismantle all nuclear weapons and make them obsolete.
Because we can just send drone mosquitoes to sting our enemies?
And ourselves. Let's get rid of all of our nuclear weapons by virtue of this special way of doing it.
Wait, and ourselves? So, but that is one way to solve the problem. If we get rid of all of the humans, then we don't have a nuclear weapon problem, except for all the stuff sitting around, which will decay and maybe not be stored properly.
So true. Well, I think all interesting topics here tonight. So what'd you come up with? We determined that it was or wasn't?
You guys said it wasn't, and the story part of it is not true, but there are actually...
Okay.
So you kind of like had a hybrid.
Yeah, sort of.
Hey, I have to put music on and then make a wave.
What exactly does how do you make a wave? Or is that just like...
I press the button and it makes the wave. I love it that way. It makes me happy when the wave goes on. I love the trumpet, too. The trumpet and then the wave together. What's more Catunquit than that? Hey, tonight, we play this every week. We're going to play it's National Blank Day. It was National Catfish Day.
Oh.
Catfish is very muddy. I don't like it.
Have you ever caught a catfish?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
I was
in Catunquit.
No. This was off Catunquit. No. They let me out once in a while. I have to get permission from Steve. So anyway.
It's illegal to use cornmeal, by the way. To catch them.
I'll keep that in mind next time I'm going catfishing. But
wait, can't you isn't that the fish that you can also catch by putting your arm in the water and it tries to...
Oh, yeah.
Like latch on and you...
Yeah, down south they do that.
In this age of television shows for everything, they had a television show for that. And these dudes were catching some monsters, but they were paying a price.
Oh. I watched one where the guy was actually bit by a shark. There was a shark that must have been in the area.
While he was trying to get catfish.
He was whatever. He was fishing around in the water with his arm, and they captured all of it. And a shark latched on, and he fought he was beating the head of the shark with his free hand. Can you imagine the fear in that man as he was on that dock, and those teeth are in his forearm?
That show came on just before Dr. Pimple Popper.
That must have been the show that our former president watched when he spoke about, talking to the boat salesperson about whether, with the boat sank, should he get electrocuted when the battery hit the water, or should he jump over there where there's a shark? Did you hear about this?
No.
No.
So what is your, as a
What's this?
former or maybe even still quahogger, somebody who's out on the bay quite a bit.
Yeah.
So your boat's going down.
Yes. I'll take the risk with the battery.
Because even though you will not be, he may think you'd be electrocuted, you wouldn't, but if that was the case, you would choose electrocution over death by shark.
Yeah. I would give it a chance. I think I have a fighting chance with electrocution. However, a battery is shorts itself.
Right. Yes, but he does not understand that sort of thing.
But, he also doesn't know that it's National Strawberry Parfait Day. Now, who didn't bring the parfaits again?
You know what's funny? I have 2 strawberry parfaits in my fridge.
But they're not in your car.
No, but if I if I knew in advance that you were going to mention National Strawberry Parfait Day, I would have brought you guys my last 2 strawberry parfaits.
It seems so, associated.
They'd be melted by now, though.
It's about 95 degrees in the studio.
Catunquit studio. It's very warm. We don't have a very good system.
Jay Cee will never be back.
Where is that heavenly breeze?
Where is that strawberry parfait? That's what I say. Hey, National Leon Day, or Leon, 176th day of the year, is halfway to a new year. That was yesterday. Ouch. Halfway. Don't like it. Ooh.
What is the history of that? I mean, why is it called National Leon Day?
Don't ask penetrating questions, Ashland.
So
we don't do any research.
Once again,
we just call them
there's
out.
no research.
So now, if for some reason...
You could call bullshit, by the way.
On that, no. There's no bullshit.
He could have made that up.
Wikipedia. No, I'm just kidding.
Our phone's optional here tonight. Can we?
No, we cannot go to the phone. That's too loud.
Can I talk to you about yonder pouches at some point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rip it.
We don't. You want to talk about it now?
Well, it's all. Then we're gonna.
I'm
Is
sorry.
that involved in when Jay goes off to make a wish, or not make a wish, make a wave?
Depends when you want to introduce the yonder pouch.
Oh, right now. Well, please.
Ring. Sounds like helicopters. That wave sound.
Oh, you want the wave?
I want the wave. You're the helicopter?
Oh, yeah. Apocalypse Now.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Ooh, right on the beach there.
Yeah. So, Catunquit. No, in our school system, on our final day of school, our principal met with as many teachers as he could to introduce a idea for cell phones and other electronic devices. It's called the Yonder Pouch.
Oh, is this one of these things that you put the phone in and then it
That
can't
is correct.
receive or transmit anything?
Yeah, and it's magnetically locked, and the students can possess it, but they can't unlock it
Until
there's an
the day
emergency.
ends.
Until the day ends, that's correct.
Oh, yonder pouch.
The other thing, that's I have heard of that before, but the other movement that's getting, gaining a little bit of steam is
Steam. It's very steamy.
is dumb phones. Basically,
Okay.
like
Just a
your
phone.
old flip phone, that sort of phone, and that, there's so much research saying that kids should not be on social media. So I think that's another option, is like parents should just say, okay, we so need to communicate with each other. Of course, we all grew up before nobody knew where we were when we were kids, but they do need to communicate.
Right.
But if you give them a dumb phone, you can text and you can call and that's it.
Right, and that really is what they're anticipating if they bring these pouches into the school, that it's going to be more of a pushback from the parents. As far as anyone is concerned, the teachers will be on board.
Yeah, because it's amazing how many parents contact their kids and vice versa during the day.
100%. You don't know how many times a kid will say to me, Jay Cee, can I text my mom? Sure, go over there and don't make it look obvious, but go ahead. Right.
You actually say go ahead?
I do say go ahead. We have a very loose policy.
Yeah.
We do, and it's not backed up. Believe me, I've tried to push in the direction of eradicating it, but administration didn't support it.
Did administration...
But now they are.
Is administration aware of National Obscure Removal of Skin Tags Day?
That's a bullshit.
That's a bullshit. How about National Hug a Narc Day?
Yeah, that's bullshit too.
How about National Recognition of Home-Based Pot Growers of America Day?
Totally made that up.
No.
That's a real thing?
No, it's not. I made it up. How about National Plant Clover Day?
I recently planted some clover, so if you'd like to celebrate me, go right ahead.
I planted a lot of clover this year too, and Jay came over and Jay Cee came over the other night and he said, "Whoa," and I know what he was looking at, and I said, "Yeah, I planted that," and he said, "You planted that?" You know, a lot of people are trying to get rid of it, but these are this for the bees, you know. Okay, music and waves. I promised you a short prose poem, and this is the section of the session here where our guests and Ashland usually listen, which is nice, and hopefully you are listening too.
He's telling us to be quiet.
Or you can just let it run and go get yourself a chai. Anyway, this is cheese. Chi. And we all know what chi means now. And Chi is a person, I'll have to say. Okay? And an important person in my life, believe it or not. I won't go any further with that. We'll talk more about that after. Chi-Chi's Chi. Chi-Chi's head cranes forward, looks for coins beneath the stools, holds fast the bar, his only prop. He looks for something at the bottom of the glass, searching among a foamy last drop, a fictional world, his bridge to terra non firma. Stanzetta holds on to the railing, seated next to me, knew my grandfather, slurred words shove caustically from his gut, gold ring, the only vestige of value, an open bottle of Percocet poses as he openly pops pills, shots, and beers. He's an incremental suicide example, resting, waiting at the Italian club for a ride home. Rusty chefs his chicken helmets, gravy bundles atop mashed, circles of salty stuffing with a free side of pickled eggs. Tongued from a wide-mouthed bottle, they tumble like oval white ice in a milky vinegar salt slurry. The sounds of bocce calls for spin and curve, laughter and tearful exchanges of cash or payment promises as confident new Italian-Americans twist green and red balls on and off the clay bocce court. Chi rises, careens to the paneled wall, where soiled pool cues hang. Like patient players, they await hosts. He carefully selects a cue, bobs on the linoleum filthy sea, and I run to rack for the great Chi. One hand always atop the green rail, tethered, he calls shots while ordering shots, through red eyes, circles, surveys, slowly stalks, seeks rolling patterns, calls upon cool billiards, Chi. Sweet sound, click, soft cue touch, caressed round objects meet, visitors drop willingly into leather homes, corner lots, in a numerical succession, as he nods at the object ball. No one ever questions intent. Chi mugs the 8-ball, and frown smiles my way, his cue a tent pole, a dance partner, like a crutch, his life crutch. He's Socrates asking questions through action, a simple shrug, twitch of the shoulder, a shake jerk of his head, seemingly stirring neurons. I timidly touch the table, like I'm reaching out for grandfather's cold hand, as he lay in the casket when I was 5. Feel the table's felt fury, cool, solid slate beneath soiled green tapestry, connected to oaken, turned, beastie lion's legs. It sits majestically amidst a fog of cigarette smoke, stains and stale beer, where I search errantly for Chee's Chi. The end.
So this is an experiential bit of prose.
Yes, it is. I had this experience with Chi. I learned so much about sports from this man, of all people.
And you are a good billiard player.
We've played billiards together on a couple of occasions, and at one point, we played in Newport, that other island over there.
Yep.
Catunquit Island, but Newport specifically. And it was in a bar where I was very reluctant to go in. Do you know why?
It's not the bar where you said somebody died on that street.
It's where the murderer, and I participated in a trial. I wasn't.
Yes. Oh, that's not the. We also played in a different place.
Yeah, okay.
In another bar in Newport.
True.
Yes.
But on that night, I was a little bit frightened to go in, just because there's a vibe there. But I was a juror on a murder trial in Newport, and this fella, I presume still lives in the city. So
but it had nothing to do with that bar, just was on that street.
True, and he just walked by it, so I guess it wasn't really a big deal.
All right. Well, tell us about the Chi.
Okay. Well, you tell me, because you listened. You're the listeners. I'm the reader. It's. What do you think
I
about
would
it?
say that you do have to have some good chi to be good at playing pool.
This inner strength, this hyper-focus. I learned hyper-focus from this guy. I mean, I think I had it just by virtue of my involvement in sport, but mostly my involvement with ADHD, right? So I had that, and I'm like pretty sport concentrated. People think that I'm really pissed off when I play sports and playing pickleball. There it is again. And I'm playing pickleball, and people think, oh, he must be mad. But I'm not mad. I'm just on to the next point and hyper-focused.
You are.
I can't see anything else.
Jay Cee, have you ever played sport with Jamie?
I actually have played a few racket sports.
Yes, and we play cards a lot.
He's very focused.
Almost to a fault. But when I'm playing billiards, what Chi showed me with his hand on the table, part of it was to stabilize himself. But he would walk and peer in such concentration at the balls. He knew where the next ball was going to be. He really set up his next shot. I learned so much from that man, and I'm indebted to him for teaching me how to play billiards. Not that I'm very good at it, but it transferred to other sports, and I'm appreciative of that. But there's a lot of things going on here too. There's a person called Stanzetta that's clearly on what do I refer to as an incremental suicide example, which is so sad, and he did pass. So there's all that going on, and the pickled eggs, which I saw you chuckling at the Rusty's chicken helmets.
Yeah,
You got you chuckling.
I almost lost it.
You did reserve some, because it is sad in a way too. This setting is sad, but in these really.
Well, that was my problem. Not really, but the poem is, or the story takes place in a bar, and I'm picturing dark, and I'm picturing, in an environment that might not, I don't know,
but
create the chi.
But chi is everywhere. That's the point I'm trying to make.
So
Chi
regardless
is
of
everywhere.
right, so you can put chi in like the darkest, deepest parts of
Yes.
humanity.
Isn't that powerful? Because, even the worst circumstance, you call on your inner strength. If you have this ability, Chi had it. And he showed it to me. So that's what it's everywhere. That's the point. So great. I'm glad that we all agree.
I got a really dumb question.
Yeah, please. There's no dumb questions.
Is
You
there
know that.
really slate underneath the felt?
Yes. The best
I never
tables.
knew that.
Yes. Anything that's made with wood beneath it, it's
Too
the warp.
soft?
It warps.
Oh, it warps. Yeah, that makes sense.
Slate's not inclined to warp, but it's very heavy.
Very heavy.
Whew. Okay, so almost time for some public service announcements, but before we're going to do trumpets and... Ashland, since we realized that we needed to have a way for our listeners to contact us at Catunquit Chronicles at gmail.com. We have been receiving
I'm
these.
surprised we get anybody who can, spell Catunquit and send you an email.
Well, yes, it's capital Catunquit, capital CHRONICLES at gmail.com. But we've been getting these, and so we get them out there, right? That's our responsibility.
They're really more like shout-outs than public service announcements.
Okay. We'll call them shout-outs. I'm going with that. For the rest. But you have to remember that I'm going with that.
So I can remind you?
Yes, thank you. Ashland and Jay Cee. Cal Tawdry wrote in to our email address, Catunquitchronicles at gmail.com, to ask James Allen, or really state something. It's more of a state. It's not an ask. Maybe it's a state. James Allen is the stupidest dude in Catunquit, and I hope he steps in shit. Ashland should do the shows alone or with me. Now, there's some implied stuff going on there. What do you think of that, Jay Cee?
Cal, huh?
What
Cal,
would
he's a
Ricky
ladies' man.
or Stuart say about that?
Stuart
I got
or
enough
Ricky.
on my hands.
I know you have a Ricky, too. Ricky or Stuart. We have Cal Tawdry's kind of making somewhat of a pass at our friend here, Ashland Comorack.
Do they have an LDS temple here in Catunquit?
I'm not sure what an LDS temple is.
Latter-day Saints.
No, I don't know that. Anything about... We don't do a lot of religion in this show. I'm sorry. I'm that... Another area I don't know anything about.
I'm not a Mormon.
Episode 9.
I'm not a Mormon.
Episode 9. Religions we know nothing about. Brought to you by... Stephanie Belenzo. I think it's called... I think I know Stephanie. Yeah, she used to work at the market. Stephanie Belenzo wrote in to say, life is so much better in the north end of the island since the conclusion of the last round of septic tank replacement requirements. I finally can get my white tub clean. I think, Stephanie, you might be... That's not the only thing that you should be worried about the tub, with the water. Is that the case, though? I have to ask you, Ashland, what's going on with your water? Is it good? Is it good water? You have good water?
I thought it was pretty good, but I will say that I had my water tested, and there is PFAS in my water.
That's amazing, because where would it come from, PFAS? How is it going to get into your water? Would you have somebody dropping plastic? PFAS is plastics,
Yeah.
microplastics.
The forever chemicals. I don't know, but if I have it, it means all the water from that aquifer is got. So,
Yeah.
it's something, the municipal water system is tested by the town, but all the people who are on wells in the north end, it's up to you to test it. So
It's another reason for Ashland to move into town. I don't think you like it out there.
If you increase my salary, maybe I could move to town.
We're gonna put another 0 on it, right on the back of that. On that topic, though, next topic. Jim Frostberg made a hole-in-one while teaching the summer golf program on the 5th hole, par 3. And he wrote in, "It was one of those things you'd never expect. I hit the ball kind of thin, and it hit the top of the protecting bunker, and it took the speed off the shot. Then it rolled into the cup. For a lot of the kids, this was their first time in the golf course, so I'm sure they think that's what happens every day. It was a great time to get a hole-in-one, though. It saved me $1,000 at the bar, as I only had to buy Cokes for the 12 students after the round."
Congratulations, Jim Frostberg.
Yeah, Jim Frostberg, great guy, by the way. I love this guy. He's out there. He does everything over there. He's cutting the lawn. He's doing the work on the greens. Just a great guy. And Jim, here's to you for dealing with all those children all summer. Thank you so much for doing that. Tessie Macomb. Tessie worked at the Bay View. Used to be the Bay View. Now it's a new hotel in Catunquit. And great gal. She was the one that made those chocolate-covered strawberries. Do you remember them when they used to have the brunch on Sunday?
They did have chocolate-covered strawberries at that brunch.
She used to bring some by for my wife. Oh, great stuff.
Was that National
Parfait
chocolate-covered strawberry day?
Yeah. She did. She brought them on national. Every day in June is National
Strawberry something day.
It's National Month of Strawberries and Chocolate. Tessie Macomb attended the Bikeways meeting at the town hall and writes in, "I say let the state pay for the bike paths over Grands Creek. I like to walk anyway, and no one talked much about walking. I think it's a great idea to use the open spaces we have, like the golf course, to bring bikes from the east side of Catunquit to the west and vice versa. Maybe that can happen with the other protected lands we bought the rights to about 20 years ago. I remember giving some money and baking some gingerbread cookies to raise money for those purchases. What's an old lady got to do to walk around the island anyway?" And I'm going to let Ashland address this one. I'm going to ask her to address this one. Isn't that nice that she said these things?
Yeah,
Except for the part about the walking.
Well, all of the paths that they're proposing for the island are available to walkers as well as bikers.
I think we maybe change the name to like access paths. That was my thought.
Yeah,
Catunquit needs access paths. I
don't know exactly what there was a consultant that came up with the plan, and I can't remember exactly what they call the multi-use paths.
Yeah.
But there is some technical name for that.
Too long, multi-use paths. Anyway, off the paths topic. But thanks, Tessie. You're a great gal. Thanks for those strawberries, too. Maggie Tolworth wrote, "I lost my keys. If anyone finds them, bring them to the town hall. And I also lost my youthful looks and the tight skin beneath my neck, which is all creaky and turtle-like. I lost my energy. If anyone finds any of these items and physical qualities that I've lost, please bring them forth immediately." Well, Maggie, good luck with that. You can only go one way in this, unless you get some cosmetic surgery, which I don't think.
I think her best hope is for the keys.
Yeah, good chance on the keys. Okay, trumpets. Okay, Jay Cee, tell me more about the Catunquit school year. What were the highlights this year? What do you have? Any highlights? You did have a couple of really outstanding students that made some great strides. You told me about.
That is 100% correct.
Isn't that endearing when that happens? It's just the
James,
most powerful.
It is.
It's powerful.
That's why
stuff.
I believe that's why you teach. Quite frankly, is
I don't
for
teach.
moments like that.
I don't teach
Well,
anything.
for those I'm sure
Yeah, you used to
you've
teach
taught.
soccer.
Exactly.
I did teach that. Yes.
Yeah, we're all teachers.
Yes.
But
That's profound. I like that. We're all teachers. And you know what? Teachers need chi.
oh my goodness,
Brings us right back, right? Here we go.
I love the chi this year.
Yeah, good chi.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of success stories. Students who went from, a certain baseline to being most improved, and that was a huge accomplishment for that one student, and there was a lot of growth in addition to that one student.
That's rewarding, and you're well into your career here after 37 years of teaching, whatever it is.
It seems like 37.
It's not 37. But you know what? Yesterday was the last day of the regular season, and now you're going to the postseason, and you get some time to go sailing, which leads me into my next discussion here, because I wanted you to tell a story, and mostly to Ashland, about the hairy-ass day you had sailing.
Oh, my.
My goodness. And
Sure.
and then you might riff back and forth, because Ashland, she has had her share of hairy moments on the water.
Hairy moments on the water.
I'd like to hear your story, Jay Cee.
Oh, Jay Cee's story is great.
I
shouldn't say that, because then the audience has this expectation, and then blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so about 6 or 7 years ago, I inherited an old boat from my father, and it needed to be completely put back together, 26-foot sailboat. And so I did. I took that project on. We got it into my driveway, and I put it all back together. I was very excited to go sailing in the West Passage of Catunquit. So we put the boat in and had it on the mooring and enjoyed several sails. I believe James Allen
was on board.
and his family was on board.
Loved it.
His wife had a great time. But as anyone who keeps a boat in New England waters knows, that hurricanes are some things that you have to be very aware of. So it's now September, and the boat's in the water, and I'm one of the only ones on my mooring. And it was very clear that a hurricane was coming up the coast and was going to hit Catunquit. So the boat had to come out. The only problem is the boat had no motor. It was strictly by sail. And so I grabbed a friend of mine after school, and we rowed out to the boat. It was called Cat's Paw. And Cat's Paw, it hadn't been tended to for a long time. So one of the port shroud, the turnbuckle, had, through all the oscillations, had come loose.
It unspun itself.
It did. Amazing, right? A little physics lesson.
Didn't want to work on Maggie's farm no more.
No, so it was just swinging in the breeze, and I was determined still to try and get that boat to the dock against the protest from my crew, who said, I don't think this is a good idea. But I convinced them otherwise.
Granted, the dock and the mooring not too far away.
Not too far.
Against the tide and the wind and the hurricane,
Oh, right.
Wait, how close was the hurricane?
It was a few days out, but
Okay.
it had still blown
Got
up
some
quite
blustery. It
significantly.
was blustery, yes.
It was probably 35, 40.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
blustery.
Big waves on the west side. So we cast off with just the Genoa. We couldn't put the main up, and everything was fine as we were sailing across. We had to obviously maneuver the boat to get it to the dock. In order to do that, we had to go towards Dutch Island.
Everything was fine until it wasn't.
So we were sailing great, having a good, excellent time, and then it was time to tack and come back and try and make the dock.
Were you aware of the shroud issue?
I was totally aware of the shroud issue.
Oh, so you were
But
going
you chose not to
shroudless.
try and fix it.
I chose not to.
Yeah.
Time was of the essence. There was a boat, an operator who was bringing down a trailer to meet at a certain specific time. So, we were on a tight
perfect
schedule.
storm. Perfect storm.
Absolutely. So on the return tack back towards the mainland, the sail is now on the starboard side. The big Genoa's on the starboard side of the boat, and that created a situation where that port shroud, which was holding up, should be holding up the mast, no longer. There was none. There was actually one there. There were two that were actually.
The story's changing.
No, there are two. There's one that goes midway up to about 3/4 of the way up the mast.
To the shrouds, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a spreader. So anyway, one was missing. So that one was under extreme stress. And as we neared Casey Point, there was I'm steering the boat, piloting, and I hear it was just tremendous, this loud crack, and the mast completely. Essentially broke right where those spreaders meet the mast, and it tore in half, and the entire rig fell into the water, which at that point created quite a scary scenario, because we have the sail, we have all the rigging, we have the mast, we have
and no engine,
and we are going very quickly up the bay towards the bridge.
Is it closer to October or?
It's early September.
Oh, yeah.
It's early September.
Okay,
so the first thing, I turned, and my crew handed me the anchor. So I go to the bow of the boat, throw it in the water, and now it's just a matter of getting it to hold. You're just holding on, hoping.
And at 35-knot wind, that's 6-8 footers.
It was big, and it does hold. And I get a cleat on it, I get a wrap on it. And now it's like, okay, you got to process the whole situation. You have all this sail underneath your boat, which is now acting like an underwater sail. It's catching the water and dragging us, and all the wires.
You got to cut it all free.
Yeah, so now it's the adrenaline of like trying to get all that stuff back into the boat and getting the sail off, and you're calling for a rescue as well. I think we called a company that's off Catunquit somewhere. To come and get us.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that they towed us back, and the hardest part of that whole thing was accepting the cost of what the tow provider.
I don't think I charged you anything when I towed it down to Wickford.
You didn't.
That
offset the cost of that
Yeah.
rescue. It really wasn't a rescue. It was just a service.
There's a few tears in your eyes that day. Yeah, that's
so
too bad.
The boat's gone now. We sold it. And
you fixed it up.
I never did. No, that was it.
You just sold it mastless.
We looked into the cost of a new mast and everything, and it was going to be about $2,000, so not really worth it at that point. It was cursed, too, I think. That boat had ants in it.
Your father cursed it?
Well, he might have, but it had animals living in it when it was at his property, and then we got it on our property and subsequently had an ant infestation in our home, black ants, because there was an ant nest in the boat, and they made their way marching down the electrical cord that was in the boat because I was doing all this work.
It's like a cartoon.
Yeah, we had to get an exterminator to come out and spray for insects.
All right, I'm going to say it definitely was cursed.
Yeah, get rid of that. Yeah, it was good. You want to burn that one. Oh, boy. That's in crazy
I also
time.
got a 26-foot boat from my father, although he sold it to me for $1. But in a way, that is sort of like a curse, right? Like he was like, I don't feel like dealing with this boat anymore. You like to sail the boat. Why don't I give it to you?
Sure.
Well, there are money pits, that's for sure. We know all about that. I was going to talk about skiing, but it doesn't seem appropriate right now, given that
It's going to remind us how hot we are.
it's steamy
bead
moments
right
here.
now.
But Jay Cee, you and I, James Allen and Jay Cee, spent many days working the water.
We did.
And some tremendously funny moments, like
Oh, my goodness.
we were clam fishing, it's called quahogging in this region. That's a Native American word. And that
Shout out.
Does anybody call it clam fishing? Clam
clamming.
digging,
clamming.
maybe.
it was always referred to as quaw-hugging, and then in 1980-ish, there was an influx of folks from Long Island, and they always referred to it as clamming. Now, that signal that you just gave me, does that mean we're running out of time?
No, that was the BS signal.
Yeah,
No, this is real. That's a real true
international sign language.
But Jay and I spent many a days out there, middle of winter.
Just for fun?
No, this was, desperate times. We needed some money to
because Jay Cee's a teacher, so he was in need of the extra cash.
We received Jay was living actually at the same house where I had bought a house. I don't know why I bought a house, but I was a young man. I bought a house. I thought that was the thing to do. And but then I realized there's a lot of maintenance and bills and stuff. And I wasn't very attentive to the bills, and I must have been late on the gas. And it said, no Servicio.
No incantado.
No incantado.
Wait, your gas man was
said in Spanish.
Spoke in Spanish and did his bills in Spanish?
They actually sent me a note, and it was all in Spanish. It was wonderful that they considered me bilingual, but I didn't have the skills. But they knew what Servicio no incantado meant.
You mean you didn't,
because we didn't have any
pretend
gas.
that you couldn't pay the bill because you couldn't read it?
I didn't. I did not know. I didn't know enough. So I was that naive. Did not know.
That might have worked in court.
Servicio incantado. No incantado. Oh, my gosh. But those were some aqualung days out there in Narragansett Bay, with the flu and all that stuff. And then when you were actually, your snots are running down your nose, like in the song, snots running down his nose, aqualung, well, they actually freeze. It's so cold. I'm talking really cold now. But then there were some really wonderful days. I can remember we used to listen to the URI basketball games. Catunquit's located very close to the University of Rhode Island. And we're out there. I can see the drift we're on right between Prudence Island and Potter's Cove. And we're just doing this big, long 1.5-mile drift and just really having fun, catching clams. Middle of winter, the price is high. So we're kind of smiling, having a good time. And URI was playing against Washington. GW, excuse me, yes. And Yinka Dare was their 7'2" center, but he was the worst shooter of the ball. So whenever we get, sometimes the rake would come up with crabs and crap. We call it crabs and crap, but then it became a Yinka shot.
That's right.
If it was bad, it was a Yinka. So
two or three, right?
Jay and I would be skiing maybe, and, he would want to make me laugh, and he'd say, oh, that was a Yinka, as I'm falling.
You know what those frozen snots are called, if you're skiing anyway?
Not dingleberries. What are they?
Snotsicles.
Snotsicles.
That's what we call them.
You can call it that. That's wonderful. I like that. Snotsicles. Now the world knows. I kind of cut that one short because we're moving on to sponsor ads, which is always fun. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Frank's Window Service. We come out to your house and fix the windows in place. At Frank's, we work to ensure your home is safe and that Catunquit breezes find their cooling effects during the summer months when you need it most. With Frank's Window Service, you'll never get any lip service. We're proud to call our window service completely transparent. So you don't get any lip service. Oh, I like the way Frank gave us this text. Love that. That was pretty cool.
You could blame it on Frank.
I help out. Catunquit Marine Services. Oh, this is interesting. Catunquit Marine Services is abbreviated CMS. Take on boating in a new way this year and join us at the docks. Call Catunquit Marine Services for all of your marine needs. CMS Catunquit Marine Services provides prompt responses to boating accidents. If you need a boat surveyor, we can ensure your estimate is fair and balanced. If your boat drifts away, our salvage team will retrieve your boat and bring it safely back to your mooring for a fee relative to 1/3 of the value of your boat. Whoa. Our fees are the lowest in Catunquit. Come to CMS because, let's face it, there's no one else that does this kind of work that we do.
You're so right. I actually called them.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, to get the boat out of the water.
Cost you $1 million.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it was a third of the value, right? That's how they operate.
I have no idea.
Well, I don't know what they're promoting it as the best in Catunquit, which it is because there's no one else.
Absolutely.
With each estimate, we provide a box of facial tissues. And you know why?
Because you're crying.
Because you're crying, right. Catunquit Town Beach, everybody loves Catunquit Town Beach. We're pretty certain that Catunquit Town Beach will not really last too much longer in this era of higher waters. But
sea level rise.
Yeah, it seems like every week I think we already spoke about this. But anyway, at Catunquit Beach, Town Beach, the tide is perpetually out. So your children can play in the surf and you don't have to worry. Our trained lifeguards concentrate their services by congregating at one central chair and restrict beach area whenever possible. We have hundreds of Band-Aids. We have hundreds of Band-Aids. At CTB, our rate of infections very low. Swim the beaches knowing that you'll survive because the sharks can't swim in 8 inches of water. Now, I kind of contradicted myself about the high tides and stuff, but the low tides, and it seems to be low tide there quite often.
Twice a day? There
you go. That's the deal there. So it's very low. I've been swimming there, and, I'm walking a half mile, but it's like...
That's the best part, though. When, as kids, we loved...
Yeah,
the sandbar and low tide, it was the best part.
It's not as low as the Wickford Town Beach.
No, right.
Have you ever swam there?
Yeah, they don't have water there. It's a puddle. Yeah. Ashland. I'm going to call you Land, perhaps, because you don't like ash, right? But anyway, we're going to talk about that after. Introducing piece here. I'm going to introduce this piece. However, do we have time? Question, do we have time?
Of course we have time.
Now is the winter of our discontent make glorious summer by the coming of York. We have time. This is entitled Dad's Low Tide and the Impala. Do you remember or recall whether or not we've already read this piece? No.
No, we have not read this piece.
Okay. And I think maybe Jay Cee will appreciate this because it involves my father, and he kind of knew him. Okay, so it starts out like this: Dad's Low Tide and the Impala. And I want you to see if you can find some chi in this.
Got it.
Moments of chi.
My father had an Impala.
Yeah, it was a very popular car. I wish I had that car. I don't have to wish. I could buy one, I guess, if I wanted one. There's lots of money in podcasting. And you know why I say that? Because
someday you'll be able to buy an Impala.
Because Ashland is getting another raise, another zero. We're buying a 1965 dark green Chevy Impala, brand new from the showroom at Ashland Chevrolet in Warren. All 5 of us, my 2 older sisters and me, are seated in the back bench seat. Mom and Dad are seated up front in the spacious car. We drive forward in the car garage as directed for a final checkup and never leave the newly purchased car. We love it that much. We rise slowly to the ceiling on a hydraulic lift, and I'm convinced that the Impala can fly. I'm like 5 years old. It's 5 years later, and it's a super low tide, midwinter, winds blowing due north at 100-Acre Cove, waters pile up, where the water piles up and presses for freedom at the White Church Bridge. Isn't it interesting they call it the White Church Bridge, right? It's a bridge. I think we've mentioned the White Church Bridge a few times in a few of our shows here. And the White Church Bridge, was actually in Barrington, not in Warren, and it's still there. And it's neither white, and it's not a church, but there is a white church near it. Nevertheless, the marsh grasses are white with silvery sheen as January's cold ices the shore's edge and extends the shoreline with solid frozen mud and sand. Dad drives down Juniper Drive with just me in the car this time. We are on another one of our searches, seeking something, some phenomena. Most days we're looking for a passing rabbit, a deer, or pheasant. But on this day, we have a once-in-a-lifetime low tide to witness. Juniper Street is one street over from our house, where in the summer my friends Paul and Rod and Scott skateboarded until the skateboard Dad built for me from a piece of hardened oak with the pointed front slid out from Skip Saunders' feet and struck me center shin, chipping a piece of bone from my shin, denting the bone, the shard laying painfully beneath the surface of the bleeding, thin, bruised skin. I never tell my parents, just live with the pain. I don't want to be placed in a cast. Fear of confinement. Never wanted to stop, even when slowed. But now we're skidding down Juniper and Green Impala, and I'd like to stop. And it's apparent that we're not going to make the turn at the base of the hill, where the road becomes the Riverview Drive. Dad steadily holds the wheel, pumps the brakes repeatedly, but the car isn't stopping, and we find ourselves moving on the hard, brackish ice to the shore's edge, where we dug steamer clams just last summer. We get out of the car, survey what's happened. The creases in my father's forehead and between his eyes reveal his concern as the tide continues to ebb, revealing old moorings, the hood of a car I'd never seen, the frozen flats reaching nearly to the channel. I want to leave him in the car to explore this near tsunami-like tide, but I stay with him in the Impala, although I creep further from the car, testing the strength of the ice and noting the studded snow tires on the Impala. Dad sees me staring at the tires. "You're thinking of clamming today, aren't you?" he asks perceptively. "No, I was noting the studded tires in the car." "Why do you ask that, Dad?" I respond. "Because I was thinking of clamming and how I might break this ice, and I know you love catching steamers." "I've always wondered what was beyond a regular low tide, Dad. I wonder what's at the bottom of that channel. I'll bet it's real good clamming out on the channel's edge," I say. "Probably is. Let's see," Dad says, oddly, as he turns the Impala key over in his hand. "Get in," he says, pointing at the open door. I do as I'm told, and he gets in too, and we explore the crusted shoreline slowly in the Impala. The studded tires crunch as we mound the sandbar and circle back in tight circles, so as to avoid the muddy section where I've been told for years to avoid as a child, having many times been sucked in by 3 feet of mud and having to be rescued by Dad. We slowly pass the exposed roof of a Model T Ford, the worn, dented roof and front supports, and what was a rear window are exposed to barely above river-bottom sands. "This is so cool, Dad. Why is it here?" I ask. "I heard of a car or two being cast from the White Church Bridge during the '38 hurricane. This must be where one of them ended up," he says, confidently, as he knows much about the history of this region, having been raised in the nearby town of Warren and having witnessed the storm firsthand as a 14-year-old boy. He was asked to leave the house and to beckon the doctors to stitch his aunt's face after she had sat too close to the window while watching the storm. A branch shattered the window into her face, requiring 56 stitches, all completed at the kitchen table under candlelight. The Impala reaches a mushy, icy patch where the mud and sand mix isn't quite as solid, and the car begins to sink slightly beyond the crusted layer. Dad quickly reverses the transmission, changing course, and spins the tires to release us from the mud. "That was close. We better try to get off this clam flat soon before the tide begins to flood," he says while looking over at me dejectedly with his face of defeat, the face he ironically wears most of his life after returning from helping to win the Second World War. His face is the worn look of 1,000 close calls, where he should have died, leaving his facial features a depiction of his inner angst. I sit in the bench seat on my side, but a little bit closer to the center to be nearer him, but not too close. Looking to the west, the river's channel's edge and 20 yards of water remain. As the icy winds continue to layer the ice, the Impala heater is full blast, easing the cold in the soles of my high-tops leather shoes. The sun peeks through a broad brood of clouds, casting a broad stretch of light on the water coursing through the channel. "Dad, look at that," I call. "I see. It's as if it's a sign telling us something, Jay," he responds with wonder, not like he does most times when he's imposing his ideas on me, but without knowing what is happening with this time with newfound curiosity. "I dreamt of this day, or one like it, I reveal. "What was in your dream?" he asks, while adjusting the defroster so we can more clearly see the light. "Well, we drove down Juniper, down the hill, but it wasn't low tide and the flats weren't frozen, but you kept on going and the Impala became a submarine Impala, and we saw fish like stripers going by and flounder and tautog, and then you somehow knew where to drive, like you had a special sense of direction or something, and you drove right up the ramp at Walker's Farm near the dock, and we drove on the highway, the Impala spewing like salt water everywhere, and we went home, and then I wake up." "And then you wake up? You had this dream before?" he questions. "Many times." "Well, then, that's the answer," he says decidedly. "The answer?" "To the sun, the tide, the channel," he says. Dad turns the Impala toward the shoreline and the makeshift boat ramp made of stone and cracked bits of concrete for our ascent from the flats. But he turns suddenly when he reaches the ramp and faces the channel one more time. "That's something. Remember this day," he says. "I will." Dad guns the engine, spin the tires in the ice as the Impala lurches forward, racing 500 feet to the channel's edge. I can't even react. It's so quick, as the car's traveling what seems like 50 or 60 miles an hour, and skips over the water, catching some bits of channel bottom as we hurtle and catch the icy mudflat, coming to a halt after skidding 30 feet beyond the channel. I look over at my father, the lines above his eyebrows, all released. His confident smile, nearly a smirk, lifts from one side of his mouth, and he nods his head at me. "That should help you remember," he says in an eerily calm voice, the voice he must have used when calling in firing missions while in the war at the forward observation posts in France and Belgium, Luxembourg, Holland, and Germany. How'd you do that? How'd you know we wouldn't sink? I ask only 2 of a million questions that all flood in my mind. I didn't. I took a chance. And a dream shouldn't go unanswered, he says, as he accelerates across the mudflat and up the icy Walker Farm ramp.
Okay, so how much of that one is true?
We did drive down Juniper Street, and the car skidded a little. That was that. But with this chi there, though, isn't it? Where's the chi? Tell me about the chi. You think there's chi in this?
Well, you have to believe if you're going to do that sort of a stunt. You got to commit, right? And you have to have some chi in order to commit wholeheartedly.
You have to have some chi if you get struck by a skateboard that's got a point on the front and it breaks your leg. Granted, it was just a chip, and you don't tell your parents. You have to hold your chi and find your chi.
That's because in those days we never told our parents. You know, like if you poked somebody's eye out, you pushed it back in their eye socket and everybody kept quiet.
I think that might have happened with you. Now, given all of your adventures, my goodness, yes. So this is a story, and there's some fact and there's some fiction here, but a lot of this exists. And it's a little story about what might have happened, right? Not what... The tide was low, I have to say that. Lower than I'd ever thought. And I thought about these things as we're skidding, coming down Juniper Road. And this is when I'm 10, so this is 54 years ago. I still remember this. So this is what prompted the story.
Did you see any cars at the bottom during a low tide?
Yes. That was the fascinating part. And then later on, when we became 13 or 14, we were fishing on the other side of the bridge, off the rocks, and we would lose our gear all the time. We got a little rowboat. We rode out there, anchored off, a snorkeling gear. Went down to retrieve all our gear, and there's a Model T4 down there. And the fish were just right on the other side of this, and they would grab your bait.
And then go inside.
Everything's good, and they would go inside, and then we'd lose it stuff. So we found thousands of... my buddies were very good about picking all the gear off of that and then reusing it. We still fished there. It was tremendous fishing. But we did take the time to row out there and anchor on top of it so we didn't lose the...
I liked your story.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Oh, good. Good, it worked out then. That's the only reason I wrote it, so that you could like it.
So then Jay Cee would be happy.
That's right, Jay Cee.
It was very entertaining.
It was a good story.
It kept me interested.
Yeah.
That's not easy. Right?
No.
I don't mean for me personally, but it's not easy to hold somebody's interest, especially with a story.
Yeah. Well, we do a lot of time in this cell block here together, Ashland and I, so it was really nice to have Jay Cee here with us tonight, giving us his insights from
the story did remind me of the time my mother actually did put the brand new car in the salt water.
Oh my goodness, we have to. That's another story that you're gonna have to put together. I'd love to hear that. You want to? I think you want to do it now?
I mean, there's not that much to tell. She was going to town and crossing the salt marsh, and there was one of these bridges where you're pretty much at sea level, and then it just has a bump that goes over where the channel is. And I'm sure she was probably going a little fast, but
she was going to town.
She came over that hump, and because it's such a sudden steep hump, like you can't see me doing my arm movements in this podcast, but when she got to the crest of that, there was two cars on the other side, people that knew each other in both one going one direction and one going the other, with the windows rolled down, talking to each other.
Using a lot of hand movements. That's great. It always works well with me.
So she had nowhere to go.
She had nowhere to go. It was either hit the car in front of her or go off the road.
Should she go? If
she went off in the salt marsh, and it's a salt marsh, so that was the end of that car.
Wow. Is it still there, or is it in the mud? Or it's
a lot of fishing gear.
It got pulled out. That was an old. I can't remember. I think it might have been a Plymouth station wagon, but you know what? I don't think it had paneling, but one of those really big station wagons. Yeah. And after that, my father bought a Volvo. He decided he needed something safer.
Well, that's true. Let's keep it safe, right? And that's the mantra. Safer car. Well, it's time to say goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen, auf Wiedersehen, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Bum 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 bum. That's the sound of music. Goodbye, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Bum bum ba bum bum bum. Okay.
I'm happy to have been here tonight with you guys. Goodbye, Jamie. Goodbye, Jay Cee. Thanks for coming, joining us today.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. This has been awesome.
I'm going to say this. Music. Wave. Door. Don't forget the pasta sauce I made for you, Ash.
Don't call me Ash.
I'll call you Land, like I said before, from now on. Bye, Land.
You're incorrigible, Jimbo.